Well, here we are. Phil and I are out in the foothills doing a little gold prospecting today. One of the things that we're trying out is the culverts that run underneath some roads. Can oftentimes be an interesting place to look for gold. The ridges that are in the metal culvert form little turbulence, create turbulence as the water flows across them. Act a little bit like a sluice-box would. Here's another culvert. It's of a older design. It's real heavy metal, but there aren't any ridges in it. Notice the rivets. There's a lot of rivets that were used to hold this thing together, and there's no ridges, there's no riffles in the bottom. I think you can see that it's relatively smooth along the bottom, so there's no place for the gold really to be trapped. What you want to find, of course, is the culvert that has the ridges that form these riffles and forms a place for the gold to be trapped. So we're going to pass on this type of culvert. Okay, we're headed towards another culvert right now. This one is further away from the highway, and in fact the culvert doesn't run underneath the highway at all. It runs underneath an old railroad grade, and it's quite a bit larger too. So we're going to check this one out. Here's a look at the inside of the culvert. Pretty good size one. You can stand up in it. There's a lot of rocks, as you can see, that are accumulated there. And ideally what we'd like to do is not have all of this debris on the bottom of the culvert, because in order to get down to where the gold probably would be, first you got to remove all of these rocks, which would be a big job. Ideally what we'd find is just a very thin layer of gravel and rocks on top of the metal culvert, on top of the ridges, and then what we do is scoop out the ridges in the culvert, and if there was any gold, it would be trapped in those grooves, in those ridges, and of course it wouldn't be able to go down any further than the metal culvert, so it would be trapped right against the metal. And take a look at this. You notice this nice big hole that has been dug down in the gravel. There's a substantial amount of gravel that is built up in this culvert. Quite a thick layer, but somebody has taken the time and all the effort to dig down to the bottom of this and get down to where the riffles are, the ridges in the culvert, because they're exposed. You probably can't see them because it's a little bit dark here, but you can see how the ridges on the side of the culvert extend right down into this pit where there's been a lot of excavation done, undoubtedly to try to find gold that are caught in those ridges or in those grooves. And then right over here, look over here, just a little bit away, and you see this pile of fine gravel. Now what that probably represents is that this is where they did some of the separation. After they dug up the gravel out of the grooves, they came over here and they used a classifier to screen out the rocks. And so this is some of the finer material that has been screened out. You notice that this pile is significantly different than the rocks all around. So it looks like this is not a natural accumulation of gravel, but it's something that is a result of the mining process. Well, we're back in the same culvert that I was at a few weeks ago, and some additional excavation has occurred. A couple of weeks ago, there's only one spot over here that had been dug out, and now the entire space across the culvert has been dug out to some extent, and some big rocks have been put in here. These large rocks that are in the culvert are sort of a mystery. It's unclear how they got here, although it doesn't seem like the natural action of this stream could have carried such large rocks in here.
Yeah.
So it makes me think that these rocks were intentionally brought in here by somebody for some purpose that's not clear. It could be they wanted to maybe cover up the excavation that they had done, or perhaps they had an idea where they were going to bring in these rocks and create some sort of a little dam inside the culvert, and then that dam, when water would be flowing through the culvert, could create some turbulence that would then deposit the gold in this particular spot. But right now, it's like I said, just sort of a mystery why these big rocks are in here. All right, we're attempting to get down to the very bottom, down where the ridges are, get some of this, hopefully, rich gravel and pay dirt. There's not any water here right now, so we're going to have to pan this out in another location, or maybe at home. Maybe we'll drag the gravel back home and do the panning there where we've got a ready source of water. So we're at the bottom, we're right in the grooves where we want to be. We get down there pretty deep. Scraping right in the grooves. So we're at the very bottom. Yeah, see that the rust-colored material is the rust from the culvert itself. So we know we're at the bottom. Just where we want to be. Alright, now we have Gabriel doing some excavation here in the culvert. We're trying to get into an area that might be newly exposed, although we're not sure about that. People who dug this original trench out here may have already dug this area out, but some of the rocks appear to be fairly securely lodged down in the bottom, so that indicates that maybe this is virgin territory here that hasn't been dug up before. Hopefully that's the case. We get down and get some gravel right along the bottom of the culvert, and hopefully it has some gold in it. Now what we're doing now is screening the rock, the gravel that we removed from the bottom of the culvert. Unfortunately, there's no water in this area, or at least not conveniently, and so we're having to do this dry, or almost dry, because at the bottom of the culvert the gravel is pretty moist down there. There's a little water down at the very bottom, which makes the rocks sort of slick with the mud and the moisture, and you can't effectively get all of the small grains or all the small dirt, all the mud off of the rocks, which can be a little bit of a problem because there might be some gold flakes that are adhering to the rocks that we're screening and then throwing away. But hopefully, if there are any nuggets in here, the nuggets won't stick to the rocks and they will fall into the bucket down below. We have two screens here. The first one we're using right now is for the coarser material, and then we'll put a finer screen on and work the material through that to get the fines down even finer. And then we're going to carry a couple of buckets of those fines back to the car, and we'll work those through some water and a gold pan back at home when we have more time.